Hi everybody. I just wanted to make a quick video um, because sometimes when you're trying to quote unquote move on from something, you create a positive affirmations that can help people, and you know how people always tell us to look at the bright side of things, and it's very difficult to do that when you're in the midst of hell or escaping from hell, which is basically what NPD abuse is. It's a hell on earth, basically. I recently had like a light bulb moment or a an epiphany or whatever you want to call it, and I wanted to share it. Now, all of you know that I'm making a point to not dwell on the narcissists themselves, these people themselves, uh, because I realize that if I don't construct myself, right, if I don't know where I stand in the world, then my mind will always be reverting back to them. And there's a very, very important reason why this is the case. Because when you were in the Stockholm Bond, the person that was targeting you, be it a mother, a spouse, a father, whoever, a child even, um, they made it a point to make you think that they are the source of salvation when you are in pain or when you are anxious or when you have some sort of anxiety. And that's why they call it, in Russian, the term for Stockholm Syndrome is love towards the abuser. And I think that that's a very good way of putting it. Basically, the mechanism in your mind is telling you that if I'm in pain, if I'm in trouble, if I can't pay my taxes, if for whatever reason I feel unstable in the world, I need to go back to this person who is the source of all of the pain in the first place, and, seek some sort of validation or comfort or soothing from them. And this is a learned habit, an ingrained habit you have in your mind. And most people don't understand it because, again, most people haven't been in a capture bond and are very confused by the dynamics of it. But because this is my platform, I want to talk about that and how I'm dealing with that situation and how really you could turn this whole experience around into a positive situation and a renewed value system. Because it's very difficult to live with it if you cannot find anything positive to reflect on in the aftermath of it. And basically, I realized that in order for me to stop thinking about them, and it's a process that actually happens by itself. There are very, very few days when I'm reflecting on uh, the pathological narcissist themselves now. I sometimes still have this rumination about antisocial behavior, about antisocial people. Sometimes I get irritated by antisocial behavior. And I was reflecting on it today, and I realized that that is not a bad thing. these are aversive stimuli in the environment. It's like if you were to walk into a New York City subway and see a rat. It's not a pleasant experience to see that rat because you're afraid it's going to crawl up your leg. You're afraid that it's going to go into your handbag. You're afraid that it's going to eat your food, you know? These are all instinctual reactions that happen with evolution to make us repulsed by like a parasite, a carrier of disease. And the reflection I had is that the fact that you have woken up to this and you are now out of the situation has made you more sensitized to people that carry diseases. You know, the fact that we know that these people exist is often a source of strain in our lives. We think because we know we're at a disadvantage, we are not, you know, capable of, we're not as capable as other people, or other people don't have to deal with this shit. You know, that's the initial, you know, feelings that we have towards the situation. Understandably, because it's like, it's an understanding that we have that somehow we're defective because we know that they exist. And I realize now that I have a new paradigm of values that I did before I woke up to this. Before, I thought that in order to love people and in order to value people, you have to instill your own perspective into them, because that for me was a source of love. And so when I made friends, for example, if I felt like they were doing something wrong or if they had a different perspective than me, I felt like I had to import my own views at the time into them. But now I realize that my new value system gives value, intrinsic value to myself and intrinsic value to other people's perspectives. In other words, I think that the best thing that you can do and the greatest manifestation of love that you can show to a person is to value their perspective and also to value their goals and aspirations. And nobody knows this better than people that have been robbed of that. So whenever I meet a person, be it a friend or an acquaintance or whatever, I give light and I give sympathy and stimulation to their inner light and to their motivations in life. So if they're a cook, I encourage them to cook. If they're a dancer, I encourage them to dance. And this is one of the greatest things, I think, that has evolved from all of this struggle that I've been through, all of this, you know, realization and understanding that I've been through, is that while we're here on earth as spiritual beings with light and our own intrinsic motivations, that's another thing I've learned, is that if you don't have intrinsic motives for what you're doing, people will assign motives to you and people will tell you what to do. That's like a core lesson that I learned. And every day you have to be aware of why you're doing things, where you're going, what your vision is, and what your global purpose is on earth. And now when I find people, when I see people, when I interact with people, it's more and more important for me to give them resources and to encourage them to do what they want to do. Because I know that there is a demonic voice in this world that everybody is subjected to on a global scale, that is telling them that they can't do what they want to do. You know, in a way, we're all victims of narcissism in the sense that there's always an opposition in people's minds towards what they want to accomplish. There are very few people in this world that truly, truly, truly know what they want to accomplish and have no doubts about what they are doing. We all have our doubts. And so, what I'm saying is, narcissism has created an incentive for me to hold on to this very important paradigm that we have to honor people's dreams and wishes for themselves, and we have to honor our own, and that needs to be a continual process for us. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but it's just something I was thinking about. It's like, if you can get to a place where you're willing to defend these sorts of values that you've come to cherish after the hellfire that you've been through, then the whole experience is not in vain. And for a long time I thought that the experience was just in vain, and that I went through this and ultimately it didn't generate anything. And lately I've been thinking differently about it. And the more you enforce that value system, the more you give power to that value system, and the more you feed that value system, the more distant the memory becomes, and the more distant, the narcissists themselves become. Because essentially, that's not what this is. The agenda that they don't want people to have. They don't want people to encourage one another. They don't want you to encourage yourself. And I've realized that that's the path out of this whole situation. Because at the end, it's all in your mind. The cage that they've implanted in you is in your mind. And you have the resources to break free of it. Even if you don't really believe that you do, you absolutely do. Because there's still light in you. You've survived a near-death experience. This is a near-death experience. And I'm proud of all of you for surviving it, and I want you to think about what I'm saying to you. What is it that you want, and continue to pursue that want every day, and encourage other people to want. It's a practice. That's the thing. If you want to establish a new behavior, a new habit, then it takes time and it takes practice. If you want to be a violin virtuoso or a master pianist, you have to dedicate hours of the day to practicing that one instrument. And so, understanding who you are and taking care of yourself is going to take time, because it's never been practiced. But now it can be. And it's really the only option that you have. Practice, practice, and practice. Doing what makes you happy. Anyway, kisses.